everybody, Fixxxer here, and I am back with A Tale in the Desert. And today I want to start off talking about laws. Now, I'm in front of the University of Leadership, and I can hop on here, start a petition for a normal law, a code of conduct, or a feature request. And I'm going to talk about normal laws because we have a few of them on the ballot. This is our voting booth here. And we got 6 laws here. These are written by players. What you do is you start your petition right here. Let's close that back up. You put the title in and what the law is, blah, 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 and you get signatures. And once you reach a certain amount of signatures, then Pluribus, the developer, I don't know if he picks and chooses which ones go up to be voted into law or not. But anyways, he will put it up to a vote, and if voted, I believe it is more than 50% yes versus no, then he will code it into the game. So we have 6 laws here that are written by players, and I'm going to go over them real quick. This is the Agricultural Courtesy Law. To better assist in the gathering of resources that all Egyptians need, the following acts of courtesy shall be made mandatory. The injuring of cactuses to produce sap when sap is gathered, restoring the collect sap and injure the cactus menu option on the cactuses. So when you go to a cactus, in order for it to produce sap, you have to injure it. You can, however, walk up to it and just collect all sap that's there, not injure it, and just walk away. Next guy that comes up behind you, he injures the cactus, but he doesn't get any sap. So that's the behavior that's supposed to correct. And then there's, additionally, there's trees that have dates on it, and you need to fertilize them in order to gather those dates. That works the same way. And collecting resin from trees as well. All works the same way. This is what they call a pay-it-forward law. And if any part of this law is a pluribus veto, the other part should still be enacted. Now, let's talk about laws real quick on what's expected to be in them. These are supposed to be laws and not like content creation or feature requests. In the past, the devs, and I believe they still plan to do so, Pluribus still plans to do so, kind of takes these pretty literally. He doesn't try to understand the scope of the law or the intent of the law. He pretty much implements it as it's written. So the problem we have with that is most laws are poorly written, and they can be abused or they just won't work and whatnot. Another way to look at it is if he's working on these bad laws or poorly written laws or whatever, he's not working on something that is well written or something that would actually help everybody. And I understand the idea behind this type of law, and I get it. You know, it can be frustrating going up to a cactus and there not being any sap, but I don't think it's that big of a problem. It's probably a bigger problem with dates and resin than it is cactus, but I don't really see it as that big of a problem personally. So I am voting no on that, at least the way it's written. One thing I wish we had when it comes to this kind of thing is some kind of discussion. Like, when these were announced in our chat here, our regional chat, we discussed them a little bit, but not a ton, and it's just our region. I'd like to hear what people have to say about these in other regions, and I actually kind of enjoy people poking holes in these laws because that's how you sniff out bad laws, or that's how you find a way to rewrite the law and make it a better law. And I think that's pretty important. Unfortunately, we don't have that, or no one's tried to do that, get some kind of conversation. At least if they have, I don't know about it. To get some kind of conversation going so we can poke holes in these laws and write better ones. So, I don't know how you could make this law better. Perhaps making it so that the person signs their name on the tree, that they're the ones who collected it, so that way you know who screwed, who didn't pay it forward, as opposed to forcing them to do it. I don't know. I just don't think it's that big of a deal, and I'm just voting no. So the Pharaoh's Gardener. Like the titles Pharaoh's Acrobat and the Pharaoh's Angler, the title Pharaoh's Gardener will be awarded to the player who has harvested the most vegetables. Now, this happens in the system chat, and you'll see up here, let it be known that Shabti shall now be known as the Pharaoh's Angler with 119 fish caught. I don't know how often it performs these checks. It looks like possibly every 5 hours. See, we got 20 hours here, 5 hours. But this one's 6 hours. I don't know how often it performs these checks, but it looks like about 5 or 6 hours. So it performs a check to see who's caught the most fish, and then it gives them this title. And as you can see, it can go back and forth for a while here. And it's kind of fun. I mean, I understand the idea about it. It's fun to know, hey, this person is caught the most fish and whatnot. And there's only 2 of them in the game, the most fish and the person who's caught the most facets. That guy is the Pharaoh's Acrobat. The problem is where is this going to end? This is the Pharaoh's Gardener will be rewarded to the player who has harvested the most vegetables, which I don't think is as exciting as the Pharaoh's Angler or even the Pharaoh's Acrobat. I don't know. But if this passes, people are going to start putting additional ones. Who's the Pharaoh's Runner or Sprinter, the guy who's walked the most in Egypt. Where is it going to end? Is system chat, which is usually pretty important stuff, going to be spammed to death? Look at it. And this is just with fish caught. Look how much is in here. And I'm worried that it'll be spam. Now, I'm not really against the idea, totally. I just don't like the way it is currently written. I would probably vote yes if this were a check that happened maybe once per week. That way the person gets to enjoy the title for a week instead of perhaps 5 or 6 hours, and then you got people competing constantly to get the name. I mean, look at it. So if this were something that were implemented maybe once per week, then I think I would vote yes on it, but until then I'm voting no. The Clean Clay Act. In order to protect the delicate ecology of our clay fields, no bric-a-brac, wood plane, flax comb, small distaff, sign, apiary, fire pit, fence, or bonfire outside of a compound may be built on top of clay. Any such buildings already built on clay fields must be removed within a fortnight of the passage of this law or be subject to claim and removal by any citizen of Egypt. Should any portion of this law be found impossible, the remainder shall go into effect. Alright, so we have a clay patch right here. I'm right by my base in case you didn't notice. This is my place right here. And we have a small clay patch right there. So this says in order to protect the delicate ecology of our clay fields. That's not the intent of this law. That's just filler somebody put in this law. The intent of this law is to prevent abuse by people with Rayleigh ovens. And Rayleigh ovens involve clay fields, and you use the clay to make these tiles for mosaics. And when those come out, you see them get placed everywhere. They get spammed all across Egypt. And so people are afraid that, let's say this guy, I don't know whose compound this is, but this is his home. And they're afraid that somebody else is going to come in here and place a Rayleigh oven on top of this clay patch in this guy's backyard. That's pretty much what this law is trying to say. And I understand that concern, absolutely. But again, I'm not too much sure on the wording of this law. The problem, at least at first glance, is that in order to protect the delicate ecology, no bric-a-brac, wood plane. So this person names out specifically what buildings cannot be put on clay. The problem is they didn't include all buildings named. So, or perhaps these things can be used to block Rayleigh ovens. So let's call this guy Bob over here. Let's say Joe from another region over wants to put a Rayleigh oven over here. What Joe can do is he comes over here and he builds bonfires all over this clay pit so nobody else can. And then once he can get enough materials for a Rayleigh oven, he comes over here, removes his bonfires, and puts his Rayleigh oven on there. The problem is, like I said, they list all these things. These are common things used to block building. Specifically, bric-a-bracs, wood planes, not necessarily fire pits. But anyways, they left out a lot of buildings here. So this can still be executed. If someone can still do this, if they wanted to, just by not using those items. So I just think this is a very poorly worded law, and I don't think it's going to help anybody, and I'm voting no on it. It has potential for abuse. Delayed Construction Act. The Decayed Construction Act, the DCA, will help keep excess clutter left by players to a minimum. This law will affect anything player built, excluding microphones, and I'll go into microphones in another episode, to be claimed by any current paid account, provided the following criteria is met. The building has been unmaintained at a 0% or for more than 30 days. This includes any building that deteriorates, compounds outside of flax processing equipment, etc. So these buildings do decay, and over time they get down to 0%, and it costs a lot of materials in order to bring it back to 100%. Anyways, bonfires that have less than 200 wood and were built more than 30 days. Buildings are claimable even if the account is paid for but is forgotten or unmaintained during building or bonfire. Edited by Pluribus to correct the horrid spelling that made it hard to read. Alright, so here's my problem with this law. I understand, and this law this is one of the first laws written in every tale. But my problem with this law is, let's say I'm a paid account right now, and I'm paid for 3 months, right? Here's all my stuff that I've busted my ass for. Let's say something happens, I don't renew after the 3 months. Maybe I have financial trouble or something like that, and I want to reduce my monthly bills. Any reason whatsoever, and I don't pay, and I stop. After a few months, I'm like, all right, I can afford this game again. I'd like to get back in it. If that were the case, if this law were to pass and I come in here, my stuff would be gone. Somebody would have torn it down for the materials. The idea of this law is that there's two things, I think anyways. The spam of buildings all over Egypt. People want to just tear stuff down, make the landscape a little bit nicer, and other people just want to get free stuff. And I don't know. I don't think it's that important. I think it's more important for me to be able to come back after a few months and have my stuff waiting for me so I can enjoy the game again and take off where I left off instead of having to start over. And I get the clutter thing and whatnot, and I even get the free stuff for Christ's sake. But come on, I don't want to screw people over. Look at how big this area is. This is just my region. This is right here is just my region. And it takes forever to get from one end to the other. This place is huge. And I really don't think clutter is that big of a problem, personally. Not big enough to screw people over. So I'm actually going to vote no on that as well. The Sheeppox Quarantine Act. So, there's a thing called sheeppox. Sheep can get the pox and they can spread it to other pens in the area. I got a sheep pen right here, and if my sheep get pox, then other pens in my area are vulnerable. Now, the problem is we don't know how the pox spreads. We don't know if it's pens within a certain radius of my pen. We don't know if it's people who are carrying the pox. If I were to go to my pen and slaughter a sheep, and I go to someone else's pen, touch their pen, does the pox go there? Or if I just walk by their pen, does it get the pox? We don't know that. We have absolutely no idea how this works. So, this law says sheeppox is a dangerous disease that has returned and threatens the health and well-being of all sheep in Egypt. Diseased pens must be treated one way or another to control. I'll make sure this guy's not talking to me. I think he is. Prevention. Anyone may add food or medicine to any sheep pen at any time, which I actually don't have a problem with. That's fine for me. Quarantine. Any sheep pen containing visibly diseased sheep is considered quarantined. See below. Any sheep pen containing one or more sheep but 0 onions is considered quarantined. Any pen considered quarantined is no longer considered quarantined once it either contains no sheep or contains onions without containing any visibly diseased sheep. That's another thing we don't know. If you were to take your sheep out of the pen, does the pen still have the pox? Is the pox with the sheep? Is the pen contaminated? We don't know any of these things. So a law like this is making a lot of assumptions. Epidemic control. Any citizen may slaughter sheep in a quarantined sheep pen by invoking the ancient law of the flock. Baram you, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Haha. Any resources gained from slaughter under Section 5 of this law remain the property of the pen owner, subject to existing permission. So basically, if your sheep get the pox, this is going to allow people... in fact, I'm not even sure that they have to have the pox. They don't. Any sheep pen containing one or more sheep, but 0 onions, is considered quarantined. So the sheep don't even need to have the pox for somebody to go in there and slaughter your sheep. They just have to have 0 onions. And the speculation is that when your sheep pen runs out of onions, then it makes it vulnerable to the pox. Now I don't think we know that for sure. It's just speculated. It seems like the most logical explanation, but we don't know it for sure. So anyways, if my pen runs out of onions, somebody can walk up to it and slaughter all my sheep, even though they don't have the pox. So no, I don't like the writing of this law at all. I'm voting no. The 49 signature law. All petitions must have 49 signatures to be considered by Pluribus, who is the current pharaoh. Pluribus said it. I will consider this, although it doesn't live up to its own ideal. So I'm guessing this law didn't have 49 signatures. All right. I don't see any reason for this. That's just silly. Voting no. So unfortunately, none of the laws that are available right now are anything I would consider. I like the ideas behind maybe 1 or 2 of them, but I think they need to be rewritten and more clearly stated. That way they can avoid any kind of abuse or anything of the sort. So that's about the gist of the law system. I don't know how often these laws are going to be brought up for votes. I don't know how often or how quickly they'll get implemented after being voted on. I know voting ends in 1 day, so you only get 2 days to vote. So I don't know. I think I would rather the dev to be working on other things or other laws that would be more important than what we have here. That's just my opinion. So there's nothing in here I'm interested in, and that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And when we get an update in a day or 2, I'll let you know what laws passed, and I'll keep you guys updated on how long it takes to get them implemented and any kind of effects they may have after getting implemented. Alright, well, I'm going to get back to work, and I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.